This is one of my favorite authors. Her name is Carolyn Brown. I'm going to read the back of this to you. Then I've got some notes that I've made. I probably won't cover all of the points of light in this one video, so that probably means we'll have more than one video. This was taped on 2/18/21. It won't be posted until tomorrow. This way I have a video going forward that I can post, so you guys will be like, hey, why just didn't she finish the book that she was reading? Because I wanted to get started on this one. Because remember, if these kind of books here, the Debbie Make Homer may not make it to the Candy Kitchen because one of my friends wanted to borrow it, but these kind of books, I want to start, even though they're my favorite author, I want to read them and then pass them on so that they can go to spend another life at the Candy Kitchen. Because A, I need the room for new books, and B, I'm probably never going to get to meet these amazing authors, which breaks my heart. But the gift and joy of sharing these books with you is enough. So let me go ahead and tell you what the back says. Then I will tell you a little bit about the book tonight to kind of ease you into the book, and maybe share a couple of pages. This is not your mother's Western romance. An RT by Book Reviews for One Lucky Cowboy, which got 4 stars. Bo hasn't got a lick of sense when it comes to women. Everything hunky rancher Lucky Bo Ladue touches turns to gold, except relationships. He's gone and lost track of women of his dreams, and now he's got himself tied up with a gold digger. Millie can mend a fence, pull a calf, or shoot a rattlesnake between the eyes, but when Spitfire Millie Toez shows up to help out at the Lazy Z Ranch, she's horrified to find that her nearest neighbor is Bo Ladue, the very man she hoped she'd never lay eyes on again. And if Bo ever figures out what really happened on that steamy Louisiana night when they first met, well, there'll be the devil to pay. Carolyn Brown is the master storyteller who never fails to entertain. Her stories make me smile, they make me laugh, and sometimes I even cry a few tears. The Night Owl Reviews. The most difficult thing about reading a Brown book is putting it down, fresh fiction. And I couldn't agree more. There's some major conflict in this book. There's past loves, which is Amanda. She's actually technically a fiance, but she quickly goes to a former fiance, and that's cool. Jennifer, who was married to Dennis, which is Bo's cousin, and has got the morals of an alley cat. Then we have Matthew, which is the ex of Millie. They were engaged but never married. And when she had a baby, which was Katie, and she shared the father's name, and she said it wasn't Matthew. And she let the whole family know that it was not Matthew, but she would never say who the dad was. That was until something happens. I like the push, the pull, the chemistry between the main characters, Bo and Millie. And it reminded me of Casey and Monica from Yellowstone. The name of this book, Lucky in Love, well, poor Bo, he wants so badly to be in love, but Lady Luck has never been on his side, when, so to speak, when it comes to love. It says, read pages 62 to 64. So, I guess that's where we'll start off. Millie laughed with him. When cows fly, she just like me. She tolerates men, but she doesn't like 'em. Calf make it? Course, I was there. You think I'd let it die? Good thing Bo's woman wasn't there. She'd have scared to death. One look at that newborn calf and she would have been up caterwauling to scorch the hair off of Lucifer's horns. I still say that boy's out of his monkey butt mind if he thinks he'll ever turn her into a ranch wife. Lord, even a deaf, dumb, and blind fool knows you can't turn a sow's ear into a silk purse. Did you ever see a face in that barn dance? She hated being there worse than anything else in this world. Thanks for taking care of my horse. Halfway to the house, Millie could still hear him muttering about Amanda. Everyone in the county could see the mismatched mistake but Bo. Evidently he wasn't very lucky in love. At that point it didn't matter what kind of luck the man had or lacked. He made his choice. He was a cowboy and he was man enough to stand behind it. He'd marry that woman no matter how worthless she was because he'd given his word. And that was the fact as solid as the one Mooses brought down from the mountain. Land's child, did you hurt yourself? Hilda exclaimed when Millie pulled out her dirty work boots off at the back door. Hilda and Slim were different as night and day. Where he was so slim and good north wind could blow him all the way to the Gulf. She was short and stocky, with a billed, round face. They'd been married forever and never had any children, other than claiming Millie and her two brothers, and they only had that come for a while in the summer when they were younger. Nope, just had to pull a calf out while I was out. Hilda stirred a pot of chili out on the back burner. Did it live? Sure it did. Well, go tell your pappy he's got fine healthy calf, and don't track up my clean floor. Shake the dust off your jeans right where you stand. You want jalapeno cornbread with that chili for dinner? You bet I do, and double the peppers. I like it hot enough to make my nose run. But it's not Poppy's calf, it was one of Bar M's cows. Then call Bo and tell him that he's an idiot. At least he's lucky when it comes to ranching. Tell him, Hilda said, he's not lucky in love, though. Tell him if he got any unluckier than he is right now, he could just call the undertaker and arrange his own funeral, because he's good as dead if he really marries up that blonde-haired witch. Tell him. You tell him. But he already knew about the calf. He arrived on that play pretty he rides on, and I made him help me. He said I was bossy, but I'm not, and I know what to do. Well, you're the kind of woman he needs. You're the kind of woman the Bar M needs. And here you are right next door, and he's blind as a bat and crazy as a drunk skunk. That's Amanda's a city girl, and she's got high-dollar signs all over her body. Why, she ain't no better than one of them high-dollar bleep in the big cities. Them kind that stand on the street corner, that they sell what's in their underpants for $1, and she sells what's in hers for what she thinks she's going to get him to buy her. And by the time he gets through buying, there won't be a Bar M. It will be dead and gone, just a few bunk houses and a lot of weeds. She might not be able to touch the ranch, but she sure bled him dry, just a high-dollar bleep. Hilda, what do you know about high-dollar bleeps? Hilda shook a spoon at Millie. Never you mind what I know or don't know. You just get cleaned up. You ain't coming to my dinner looking like a high-dollar bleep. She shooed her away with a flap of the apron. Get on and get out of here and quit your smart-mouthing. I can still bend you over my knee, and any kid that what begs for a whipping can find one. Now get 'em out those stairs. Okay, page 81. No, not the bull. It's Bo's. He's turned over one of those three-wheelers and hit a rock. His arm and leg are pinned. Call the closest hospital and send me an ambulance. He opened one eye, but he's unconscious right now. She flipped the phone back together and tossed it back into the saddlebag. It was the longest 30 minutes she ever spent in her life. Buster arrived at the first on the four-wheeler, lending the ambulance down the cow path to the scene of the accident. Bo muttered when they lifted the machine off his arm and leg and loaded him into the ambulance. I'll ride with him, she said. Buster, will you see to it that Wildfire is taken back home? Buster nodded. Yes, ma'am. Miss Millie, I'll be over at the hospital as soon as I can. When he wakes up, tell him I'm on my way. He tried to say her name, but his tongue was too thick, and he felt a sharp prick in his arm, and everything went dark again. He was evidently trying to call for Amanda, and Millie's heart was heavy with a piece of lead. But why shouldn't he call out for Amanda? He had just asked the woman to marry him, and even if she was a purebred witch, evidently Bo loved her with all his heart. They wheeled him into the emergency room, and she answered his questions while they took him straight back through a set of double doors. Then she sat down in the waiting room, and she wished they were anywhere in the whole wide world but where she was. Amanda would be coming through those doors any minute in one of her fancy little short-tailed suits and high-heeled shoes. Her blonde hair would be picture-perfect, and her big blue eyes would be filled with tears. And Millie sat there looking like the last rose of summer. She lost the clip in her hair that was holding her hair back, and it looked as if it hadn't been combed in weeks. Bo's blood stained the front of her shirt, and there were wet grass stains on her knees from her faded jeans. She heard the swoosh of the doors, and they opened up, and expecting to see Amanda with her smug better-than-you look in her eyes, she had in the rest room at Spencer's barn dance, but it was Mary who had rushed to her side. She took her granddaughter's hand in hers, and in her wrinkled one. What happened? Looked to me like he hit a rock with the front wheel of that three-wheeler, then it threw him. Pinned his arm and his leg, and when it rolled onto him, and he hit his head on another rock when he tumbled. There's a gash on the back of his head, and the EMT said he could have a concussion. He kept trying to say Amanda's name. I guess somebody should call her. Well, I'm not calling her, Mary declared. Buster or some of the ranch hands can take care of that, but I'm not wasting my quarter. Granny. Well, that's a fact, honey, and I ain't apologizing either, Mary said bluntly. Buster was the next one to arrive. He plopped down in a chair. Mary, how he's doing? Has he got sewed up yet? Don't know, Mary said. He tried to say Amanda's name. He said, at least. I figure he was trying to say her name. Buster rolled his eyes to the ceiling. I ain't using my quarter to call that woman, and I sure don't want to have to sit in this little room with her for very long. Mary patted his shoulders. My sentiments exactly. A doctor stuck his head through the doors. Anyone out here by the name Amelia Jimenez? Amelia Jimenez? Mary asked. Yes, Beau Ledoux keeps demanding someone by that name come hold his hand. He's got a concussion and we can't get him quiet. Someone said you are Amelia Jimenez. Maybe I can help. Millie stood up and slowly he must have remembered Amelia, not Camilla. When he woke the next day, somewhere back in the dusty attic of his brain, he remembered Amelia Jimenez and that night. Both eyes were open and blood had been washed from his face when she peeped through the curtain. Amelia, I knew you were more than a dream. He held out his hand and she took it. We're going to put a few staples in the back of your head where you hit the rock. You're a very lucky man that your arm and leg are just bruised and not broken, the doctor said. He winced when the staples went through his skin. Where did you go, Amelia? Home, she said. Now we're going to get you settled into a room for tonight. You can probably go home tomorrow if everything looks good. You've got a concussion and you'll have that big headache. Head wounds bleed a lot, but I don't think you'll need blood. The doctor filled a hypodermic with clear liquid, and this is going to make you sleep for a while. He searched the room frantically until he brought her back into focus. Amelia, don't go home again. Stay with me this time. They said you were a dream, but I kept the earring, and it's on my keychain in my pocket. She patted his arm and touched his unshaven cheek. Just shut your eyes and go to sleep. It'll be all right. When you wake up, everything will be fine. You'll be right here. Just shut your eyes, she said again. He woke that afternoon to the tune of a bass drum, doing a double time behind his eyes with a whole orchestra playing of some kind of horrid rock music, off-key and out of tune. Amelia was gone, and some brassy woman with blonde hair sat in a chair next to his bed, and she was using an emery board to file her long nails, which looked like hawk talons. The grating sound raked every nerve across in his ears. Who are you? I'm Amanda, your future wife. Where is Amelia? Her eyes narrowed down to little slits as she eyed him, lying there with bruises and scrapes all over his arms and face. Who is Amelia? My dark-eyed lady. Where is she? She opened her purse and she put her emery board away before she stood up. That two-bit, wet-back hussy from the dance? Is that who you're talking about? That hired hand over there at the Lazy Z who found you and brought you to this place? That's not Amelia, that's Millie, Jim's granddaughter, he argued. Well, that's who found you and called the ambulance. She was still sitting here when I arrived, but I informed her that she could leave and never come back. He turned his head toward the windows. Go away. Amanda suddenly saw a secure financial future slipping from her hands. Oh, darling, I was so worried and so angry with all those people for not calling me sooner. She willed a trained tear to escape from down under her heavy, made-up eyelashes. A tall, dark-haired doctor breezed into the room. And now, how is our patient? Looks like he's awake and talking at least. Getting hungry? Supper tray should arrive soon, and since you've not had any nausea, you can go ahead and eat real food. Amanda quickly faced the windows and dabbed the tear off her cheek, and by the time she turned back to face the good-looking doctor, she had a sweet, plastered smile on her face. Doctor, he doesn't even know me. That's not a surprise. He had a concussion, but if I had a girlfriend as pretty as you are, I think I'd remember you in a hurry. She opened her blue eyes even bigger and tucked her chin in a bashful pose. Well, thank you, but I'm not his girlfriend. I'm just a caring friend. Well, now that's interesting. Amanda checked her finger for a wedding band, and seeing not even a white line where once was, she carefully removed her engagement ring and dropped it in her pocket. Are you new here in Ardmore? Yes, I am. Did my internship at the Baptist just last year and started an ER doctor here last month. Ardmore is a nice little town, but quite a social change from the big city. I'm sure. Well, I'm glad that you're taking care of my friend, Anthony. I didn't catch your name, the doctor said. Amanda Whitman. Like the brighter. And you're from Ashmore? Oh, yes, I teach school in Wilson, but I can never live in a town small permanently, she told him. Beau was tired of playing games with two people playing, and it was evident that they were flirting, but who cared? He didn't even know the tall blonde with the room with him. Maybe she was one of those women from the office who took down his medical history. The man seemed to be a doctor and said he couldn't go home tomorrow. Home. That's where Amelia said she went. He distinctly remembered her saying where she was going home, and tomorrow he was going to go home, and she would be there. "Where is Amelia?" he asked. "Your lady friend left a while ago. She stayed with you until your friend arrived," the doctor said. "Okay," he nodded and shut his eyes. Home. He was going home tomorrow. Amanda walked to the door with the doctor. "So, Amanda Whitman, are you listed in the phone book?" "Why, yes, I am," she flirted. "A doctor. That meant social standing is much more money than the Bar M without a black cow and a stupid barn dance." "And would Amanda Whitman mind if Dr. Jason Auerbach called her sometime this week?" "She would love for you to call." Amanda blushed again. She couldn't believe that Anthony was actually snoring. Evidently he really was on foggy land somewhere and didn't know who she was. If he'd been awake, he would have been standing in the middle of the bed with his fist up like a boxer ready to duel the doctor for her. "Well, then, I'll hope to talk to you later tonight." The doctor went on to the next room. She picked up her purse and started to kiss Anthony on the forehead, but why waste the energy in the lipstick? And who was Amelia, anyway? Some past love he never mentioned? The woman who brought him in was Millie. Evidently Millie Torres. If she was Jim's granddaughter, he thought she was someone named Amelia. Maybe Amelia was his mother. She heard that often a concussion sends a person back in time. So maybe he was calling out for his mother. She shut her eyes dramatically and whispered, "It really doesn't matter, because I think I've found someone who can appreciate all that I can bring into a relationship so much more than you. Of course, you need me more, but this is not about what you need. So get well and we'll talk later, and after I get to know this doctor a little better this week. I hate to break your heart, darling. I really do, but I didn't set out to cause you grief and sorrow. But now I really must go and wait for his call. I cannot compete with your mother, because it is her you beg for, not your only true love, Amanda." She sighed deeply and rushed out of the room, hoping to catch one more glimpse of the handsome doctor as she left the hospital. Bo opened his eyes to see if she'd gone yet. Holy smoke, who is that woman? And what was all that about anyway? She sounded like she was deranged. I'm glad she left. What was she talking about my mother for anyway? I didn't ask for my mama. Sorry. At midnight he sat straight up in bed and looked around the room. Everything was clear as summer sky without a cloud in it. He topped the hill and hit a rock with the front wheel of his vehicle. He remembered flipping it over, something about a buzzard. Then a dark-haired woman was bending over him. He knew this from the hospital room. He found the right button on the side of his bed and pushed it. A nurse poked her head in the room door at just that moment. "Yes, sir. Oh, Mr. Ledoux, you're awake." "Yes, ma'am, I am. What did I break?" He looked at both legs and checked his arms. "Nothing. Lucky for you, you've got sutures in the top of your head. Had lost a lot of blood on you when the lady brought you in, but the head wounds will bleed out quite profusely." He felt the top of his head and winced when his hand found the staples. "How many?" "7, I think. The doctor will remove them in a few days, and that pretty blonde lady, your pretty blonde hair will grow back soon. I've had a few stitches before. Millie brought me in?" "No, I think her name was Amelia. That's what you kept calling her anyway. Amelia Jimenez? I just had come on the shift, so I might be wrong. I wasn't in the emergency room. The other nurse just told me about it. It was Millie Torres. Amelia isn't a real person. She's just a dream I have sometimes." "Can I get you something?" the nurse asked. "Just Amelia," he said. He could have sworn she was a real person, but then again 2 years ago he had thought she was real too. And that is perfect enough to stop for tonight and to whet your appetite for this wonderful book of Lucky in Love. I wish I would have read this before Valentine's Day, but it didn't work out that way. I know I've read this book before, but I don't know why I didn't do a book review. I have highlighted the pages to share with you, and I'm going to circle that we're going to be starting on page 99 tomorrow night, which technically should be the first night of doing the book review, but it is what it is. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you on the next video.